The moment Jennifer Whitmore pointed her finger at Judge Judy Sheindlin, you could feel the entire courtroom hold its breath. What happened next would become the most replayed moment in courtroom television history. A single sentence so devastating that it would cost this so-called wellness influencer everything she'd built. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's rewind to how a routine small claims case turned into a masterclass in destroying entitlement. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Studio City, California. Courtroom 5A buzzed with an energy that felt different from the usual Monday morning docket. Case number 4726 was about to be called, and tucked away in the back row sat something unusual. A group of 7 people, all strangers to each other, all clutching the same thing, printed screenshots of Instagram posts. None of them knew they were about to witness the same woman who'd made their lives miserable get absolutely demolished on national television. Marcus Chen walked into that courtroom with the quiet dignity of a man who'd been beaten down, but refused to stay down. At 32 years old, this rideshare driver with a 4.9-star rating had seen a lot in his 3 years behind the wheel. Late-night drunks, rude businessmen, crying teenagers, and everything in between. But he'd never experienced anything like Jennifer Whitmore. The woman who spilled an entire bottle of red wine in his back seat, laughed in his face when he asked her to cover the cleaning fee, and then systematically tried to destroy his livelihood with a single Instagram post. Marcus was suing for $2,147. The stained leather seats that cost $847 to detail, $3,500 in lost wages when her false complaint got him suspended, and $500 for the emotional distress of watching his career nearly crumble because one entitled woman couldn't admit she was wrong. Then she walked in. Jennifer Whitmore, 41, lifestyle influencer and self-proclaimed wellness coach with 47,000 followers, hanging on her every word. Designer sunglasses perched on her face indoors because apparently the fluorescent lights of accountability were too bright for her. She carried an oversized Louis Vuitton bag like it was a shield, her perfectly highlighted hair styled in that unmistakable way that screamed, "I want to speak to your manager." But here's what nobody in that courtroom knew yet. Jennifer wasn't just suing to defend herself. She'd filed a counterclaim for $5,000, accusing Marcus of unsafe driving and emotional trauma. She had her cheap lawyer in his ill-fitting suit. She had her Instagram army ready to attack. She had testimonials from friends who weren't even there. And she had something else. Absolute confidence that she was untouchable. After all, judges always sided with women in these cases, right? Her followers told her she'd win easily. The universe rewards confident women, they said. Marcus was just another man trying to exploit her success. What Jennifer didn't have was the truth. And she definitely didn't know that Judge Judy had already spotted something in those case files that made her jaw tighten. This wasn't going to be a routine hearing. This was going to be an execution. Judge Judy Sheindlin entered her courtroom with that signature stride that had intimidated liars for nearly 3 decades. Black robe flowing, reading glasses already positioned for battle, she took her seat behind the bench and immediately locked eyes on Jennifer Whitmore. That look, anyone who'd ever watched Judge Judy knew that look. It was the look of a woman who'd already read between the lines and found nothing but garbage. Jennifer, still wearing those ridiculous sunglasses indoors, completely missed it. She was too busy whispering to her lawyer, probably rehearsing the victim speech she'd been perfecting since the moment she decided to turn this into content. For her wellness brand, Judge Judy banged the gavel, once sharp, definitive, the kind of sound that says we're not here to waste time. Case number 4726, Chen versus Whitmore. Mr. Chen, you're suing for damages related to an incident in your vehicle. Tell me what happened and keep it simple. Marcus stood up slowly, his hands clasped in front of him like a man who'd been raised to respect authority, even when authority hadn't always respected him back. Your Honor, on October 14th, I picked up Ms. Whitmore from Bella Vista Restaurant at 2:30 in the afternoon. She'd requested a ride through the app. When she got into my car, I could immediately tell she'd been drinking. She was carrying a wine bottle, which is against company policy, but I didn't want to cause a scene. So I started driving to her destination. His voice was steady, factual, the voice of someone who'd rehearsed this testimony, not because he was lying, but because he needed to get it right. About 5 minutes into the ride, she spilled the entire bottle of wine on my back seat. The whole thing. Red wine all over tan leather. I pulled over safely and asked her politely if she could help cover the cleaning costs. She laughed at me, Your Honor. Actually laughed. Then she got out of the car, slammed the door, and that was it. I thought maybe she'd realize later and do the right thing. So I sent her a message through the app requesting the $67 cleaning fee the company allows us to charge. She responded with 3 laughing emojis and good luck collecting. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. And then what happened? Marcus's voice tightened just a fraction. Then she left me a 1-star review saying I was unprofessional and rude. But that wasn't enough for her. She posted about me on Instagram to her 47,000 followers, basically painting me as some kind of scammer trying to exploit her. The company suspended me for 72 hours while they investigated. I lost 3 days of income, Your Honor. 3 days I couldn't work because she decided her version of reality was more important than the truth. Before Judge Judy could respond, Jennifer's hand shot up like she was in a classroom, and without waiting for permission, she started talking. Your Honor, if I may, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This man is clearly trying to manipulate the situation. She removed her sunglasses with a dramatic flourish, revealing eyes that were definitely bloodshot. Though she'd probably claim it was from all the crying she'd been doing over this traumatic experience. I am a wellness influencer with a significant platform. I teach women about boundaries, self-care, and not letting people take advantage of them. And that's exactly what this driver tried to do to me. Judge Judy's eyebrow went up. Just one, the left one. That was never a good sign. Ms. Whitmore, did I call on you? Jennifer blinked, momentarily thrown off her script. Well, no, but you thought wrong. Sit down and be quiet until I ask you a question. The courtroom went silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. Jennifer sat down, but her face had already flushed red. Strike one. Judge Judy turned back to Marcus. You have photos of the damage? Marcus nodded quickly, pulling out a folder with printed photographs. Clear, detailed shots of his backseat absolutely destroyed by red wine. The stains were massive, unmistakable. The kind of damage that would cost serious money to fix properly. Judge Judy studied them for a long moment, then looked up at Jennifer. Ms. Whitmore, these photos show significant damage to this man's vehicle. Is this your wine? Jennifer shifted in her seat, and when she spoke, her voice had that condescending tone of someone explaining something to a child. Your Honor, I may have accidentally spilled a little bit during the ride, but this looks excessive. I think he's exaggerating the damage to get more money out of me. These rideshare drivers, they target successful women all the time, because they think we're easy marks. They see the designer bag, the nice clothes, and they think, oh, she's got money. Let me see what I can get from her. She was building momentum now, her influencer persona fully activated. And frankly, Your Honor, his driving was erratic. He was swerving, speeding, making me feel genuinely unsafe. I had every right to leave that review, because it was my honest experience. Women need to feel safe in these vehicles, and he created an environment where I felt threatened. Judge Judy let her finish. Let her dig that hole nice and deep. Then she leaned back in her chair and asked the simplest question in the world. Ms. Whitmore, had you been drinking that afternoon? Jennifer's practiced smile faltered for just a second. I had wine with lunch, yes. I'm an adult, Your Honor. That's perfectly legal. I didn't ask if it was legal. I asked how much you'd been drinking. I don't know, 2 or 3 glasses? It was a celebration brunch with my girlfriends. We were having a good time. 2 or 3? Which is it? I wasn't exactly counting, Your Honor. The point, Judge Judy interrupted, her voice sharp as a knife, is that you got into this man's vehicle intoxicated, carrying a bottle of wine, which you then spilled all over his car, and now you're sitting in my courtroom trying to convince me that he's the problem. Jennifer opened her mouth to respond, but Judge Judy held up one finger. I'm not done. Mr. Chen, you mentioned she posted about this on social media. Do you have copies of those posts? Marcus's lawyer stood up. And that's when Jennifer Whitmore's confident smile finally completely disappeared, because she suddenly remembered exactly what she'd written in that post. And she realized, maybe for the first time, that receipts last forever. The lawyer placed a stack of notarized printouts on Judge Judy's bench. Official screenshots dated and time-stamped, the kind of evidence that doesn't lie. Judge Judy picked up the first one and began reading aloud, her voice dripping with the kind of sarcasm that could strip paint off walls. Posted October 14th at 5:47 p.m., 3 hours after the incident. Just had the worst rideshare experience with the rudest driver ever. She looked up at Jennifer over her glasses. So far, standard complaining. Let's keep going, she continued reading. Accidentally spilled my Pinot in his car, but he had the absolute audacity to demand I pay for cleaning. Excuse me? That's what insurance is for, sweetie. Not my problem. You chose a job where accidents happen. Maybe invest in leather protector next time. The courtroom was dead silent. You could hear Jennifer's breathing getting faster. Judge Judy kept reading. He literally wouldn't let me out of the car until I promised to pay. Felt totally trapped and unsafe. Ladies, please be careful with driver ID number 4739. He's aggressive and clearly just wants to scam money from female passengers. Stay safe out there. She set the paper down carefully, deliberately, like she was handling evidence at a murder trial. So let me make sure I understand this correctly, Ms. Whitmore. You admit in writing that you spilled wine in his vehicle. You admit that he asked you to pay for the damage, and then you accuse him of trapping you in the car and being aggressive, which would be a crime if it were true. Is that accurate? Jennifer's lawyer grabbed her arm, trying to stop her from talking, but she shook him off. The influencer in her couldn't help herself. She needed to control the narrative. Your Honor, that post was just me venting to my community. Social media is where people share their experiences. It's called freedom of speech. I'm allowed to tell my followers about bad service. Freedom of speech, Judge Judy repeated slowly, like she was tasting something rotten. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences, Ms. Whitmore. You posted this to 47,000 people. You used his driver ID number so anyone could identify him, and you accused him of criminal behavior. That's not venting. That's defamation. She picked up another screenshot. And look at this. 347 comments on this post. Let me read some of these. OMG girl, you dodged a bullet. Report him immediately. These men think they can intimidate us. So glad you're safe. I'm reporting his number too. We need to protect each other. Someone should find out where he lives. Judge Judy's voice went ice cold. Someone should find out where he lives. That was posted under your content, Ms. Whitmore, and you didn't delete it. You let it sit there while your followers turned into a mob. Jennifer's face had gone from flushed to pale. I can't control what my followers comment, Your Honor. No, but you can control what you post. And what you posted was a lie designed to destroy this man's reputation and livelihood. All because you didn't want to pay 60-some hours. Judge Judy turned to Marcus. Mr. Chen, what happened after she posted this? Marcus cleared his throat, and for the first time his voice cracked with emotion. Your Honor, within 6 hours I received 23 fake one-star reviews from accounts that never rode with me. My rating dropped from 4.9 to 3.2 overnight. The company suspended my account pending investigation. I have 2 kids at home. My daughter needed school supplies that week. I couldn't work. I couldn't provide. His hands were shaking now, all because I asked someone to take responsibility for their actions. Judge Judy nodded slowly, and when she looked back at Jennifer Whitmore, there was something in her eyes that made the influencer shrink back in her seat. Let's talk about your counterclaim for $5,000. Jennifer sat up straighter, sensing an opportunity to regain control. This was her moment, the part where she got to play victim and make this all about her trauma. She'd practiced this. Her therapist had even helped her articulate her feelings, though that therapist had no idea those feelings would end up in a lawsuit. Judge Judy opened the counterclaim file, and her expression suggested she was reading something written in crayon. Ms. Whitmore, you're suing Mr. Chen for $5,000. You claim emotional distress, unsafe driving practices, and something here about, let me make sure I'm reading this right, intentional infliction of emotional harm through aggressive financial demands. Did you write this yourself, or did your lawyer help you? Jennifer's lawyer sank lower in his chair. He'd tried to talk her out of the counterclaim, tried to explain that it made her look vindictive. But Jennifer Whitmore didn't take advice from men in cheap suits. Your Honor, that ride was genuinely traumatic for me. He was driving erratically, making sudden stops, and when I tried to exit the vehicle, he became verbally aggressive. I feared for my safety. I had to see my therapist 3 times after that incident just to process what happened. I couldn't sleep for weeks. Every time I got into a car, I had panic attacks. That's real damage, Your Honor. That's worth compensation. Judge Judy set down the papers and folded her hands. You had panic attacks every time you got into a car? Yes, Your Honor, debilitating anxiety. Show me the therapist bills. Jennifer froze. I'm sorry? The therapist bills. You said you saw your therapist 3 times. That should be 3 separate bills, probably around $150 to $300 each, depending on your insurance. Show them to me. Jennifer fumbled with her expensive purse, pulling out her phone, then putting it back, then reaching for a folder that clearly didn't contain what she needed. I have them at home. I didn't think I'd need to bring every single piece of documentation. Judge Judy's voice could have frozen nitrogen. You're in a court of law seeking $5,000 in damages, and you didn't think you'd need to prove those damages? What did you think this was, a wellness retreat where we all just trust your vibes? The courtroom erupted in barely suppressed laughter. Jennifer's face went crimson. Your Honor, I'm happy to provide those bills after today's hearing. I just wasn't aware of the specific requirements. The specific requirements are called evidence, Ms. Whitmore. It's kind of important in court. Judge Judy turned to Marcus. Mr. Chen, you mentioned you have dash cam footage? Marcus nodded eagerly. Yes, Your Honor, the entire ride is recorded. Video and audio. Let's see it. The bailiff wheeled in a monitor, and within seconds the courtroom was watching October 14th unfold in real time. The timestamp read 2:31 p.m. Marcus's car pulled up to Bella Vista Restaurant. The passenger door opened and Jennifer Whitmore stumbled in, literally stumbled, carrying a wine bottle and her oversized purse. She was already on her phone, FaceTiming someone. The audio was crystal clear. "Girl, I'm so drunk right now." Jennifer's voice laughed from the speakers. "We went through 4 bottles, 4. I can barely walk." She was loud, obnoxious, the kind of drunk that thinks everything is hilarious. Marcus's voice came through calm and professional. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you can't have an open container in the vehicle. It's against company policy. Relax, it's almost empty anyway. Just drive." Judge Judy watched the screen intently. The car pulled away from the restaurant. Marcus drove exactly at the speed limit, smooth, careful, no sudden movements whatsoever. At the 2:44 p.m. mark, Jennifer shifted in her seat, still on FaceTime, waving the wine bottle around for emphasis while telling some story. Then it happened. The bottle tipped. Wine poured out in a dark red stream, completely soaking the back seat. Jennifer's voice on the recording, "Oh shit. Oh my God, that's hilarious." She was laughing. Genuinely laughing. Marcus pulled over immediately, calmly, using his turn signal. "Ma'am, you just spilled wine all over my seat. I'm going to need you to help cover the cleaning cost." The company allows a $67 fee for incidents like this. Jennifer still laughing. "Dude, it's just wine. Chill out." "Ma'am, that's my livelihood. I need to be able to pick up passengers after this, and I can't do that with wine-soaked seats." The laughter stopped. Jennifer's voice went cold. "Are you seriously trying to shake me down right now? We've arrived at my destination. I'm getting out. I just need you to acknowledge the cleaning fee through the app." "Not my problem, buddy." The video showed her getting out, slamming the door, and flipping off the camera before walking away. Judge Judy turned off the monitor. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. She looked at Jennifer Whitmore with the expression of someone who'd just watched a child lie about eating cookies while covered in crumbs. "Ms. Whitmore, I just watched you commit perjury in my courtroom. You said he drove erratically. That video shows smooth, safe driving. You said he trapped you in the car. That video shows him professionally requesting payment for damage you caused. You said you felt threatened. That video shows you laughing and cursing at him." Jennifer's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "That video must be edited. He could have—" "Stop talking," Judge Judy commanded. "Just stop. You're making it worse." Judge Judy wasn't done. Not even close. She pulled out another document from the stack, and the way she held it suggested this was where things were about to get really ugly for Jennifer Whitmore. Mr. Chen's attorney did something very interesting during discovery. They contacted the rideshare company and requested your complaint history. Would you like to know what they found? Jennifer's lawyer finally found his voice. "Your Honor, I object to the relevance of—" "Overruled. Sit down." Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and began reading. "In the past 18 months, Ms. Whitmore, you have filed 7 formal complaints against rideshare drivers. 7. Every single one accused the driver of either unsafe driving, unprofessional behavior, or trying to overcharge you. And in every single case, you demanded and received a full refund." The courtroom stirred. People were sitting up straighter, paying closer attention. This wasn't just about one spilled wine bottle anymore. This was about something much bigger. Judge Judy continued. "Driver number 1, Rafael Santos, you claimed he took a longer route to inflate the fare. Investigation showed he followed GPS exactly and avoided a traffic jam. You got your $43 refund. Driver number 2, Patricia Kim, you said she was rude and made you uncomfortable. Her dash cam showed a completely silent professional ride. You got your $30 refund. Should I keep going?" Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. "Those were legitimate complaints. Were they? Because here's what's interesting. Every single one of these complaints came after rides that originated from bars or restaurants. Every single one happened between the hours of 2 p.m. and midnight, and every single one of these drivers was either suspended or had their ratings destroyed by your reviews and your followers." She pulled out another document. "And then there's David Martinez." A man in the back of the courtroom stood up. He was in his 50s, wearing a simple button-down shirt, and his eyes were locked on Jennifer with a mixture of anger and vindication. Judge Judy nodded at him. "Mr. Martinez, please approach." David Martinez walked to the secondary microphone, and when he spoke, his voice shook with suppressed emotion. "Your Honor, thank you for letting me speak. Last year, Jennifer Whitmore did to me exactly what she did to Marcus Chen. She spilled food in my car, refused to pay the cleaning fee, and then posted about me on Instagram. Her followers found my personal Facebook page. They found photos of my family. They sent me messages telling me I should lose my job, that I was a predator, that someone should teach me a lesson. I was terrified. I have a wife and 3 kids. I lost 2 weeks of income while the company investigated her claims. It cost me $2,800 in wages and $400 in cleaning. I couldn't afford to sue her. I just had to take the loss and move on." Jennifer shot to her feet. "This is ridiculous. You're letting random people come in here and make accusations without proof. Judge Judy's gavel came down like a gunshot. I said sit down. The authority in her voice was absolute. Jennifer sat. Mr. Martinez isn't a random person, Ms. Whitmore. He's a witness. And unlike you, he brought evidence. David held up his own folder of printed screenshots, posts from Jennifer's Instagram dated 11 months ago, with his driver ID number visible, comments from her followers that crossed the line from criticism into harassment, threats, real documented threats. Judge Judy examined the documents and shook her head slowly. So this is a pattern. You get drunk, you get into someone's car, something goes wrong because you're intoxicated, and instead of taking responsibility, you weaponize your social media following to destroy their livelihood. Does that about sum it up? Jennifer's veneer was cracking. The confident influencer was gone, replaced by someone who suddenly realized the walls were closing in. I was just sharing my experiences with my community. That's what influencers do. We're authentic. We're transparent. You're a bully with a smartphone, Judge Judy said flatly. There's nothing authentic about lying to 47,000 people and then hiding behind "it's just my experience" when you get caught. She turned to Marcus. Mr. Chen, is there anything else you'd like to present? Marcus's lawyer stood up, and the smile on his face suggested they'd saved the best for last. Actually, Your Honor, there is. We'd like to call someone from the restaurant where Ms. Whitmore had lunch that day. The manager has been subpoenaed and is here to testify about exactly how much Ms. Whitmore had to drink before getting into Mr. Chen's vehicle. Jennifer Whitmore's face went completely white. Frank Delgado walked to the witness microphone with the weary confidence of a man who dealt with difficult customers for 2 decades. He was the general manager of Bella Vista Restaurant, and the way he glanced at Jennifer suggested this wasn't going to be a friendly testimony. Judge Judy leaned forward. Mr. Delgado, you were working on October 14th when Ms. Whitmore and her party dined at your establishment? Yes, Your Honor. I was managing the lunch shift. Ms. Whitmore's party arrived at 11:30 a.m., 3 women total. They ordered 4 bottles of wine over the course of nearly 3 hours. He pulled out a receipt. This is their bill, $287.34. 4 bottles of Pinot Noir at $52 each, plus appetizers and entrees. Ms. Whitmore's credit card was charged for the full amount. Judge Judy examined the receipt. 4 bottles for 3 people over 3 hours. That's a lot of wine. Yes, Your Honor. And about halfway through their meal, around 1 p.m., I personally had to speak with their table because other guests were complaining about the noise level. Ms. Whitmore was particularly loud, standing up at one point to take selfies with her wine glass, disrupting the dining experience for others. Jennifer couldn't stay quiet. We were celebrating. We were having a good time. Since when is it illegal to enjoy yourself at brunch? Judge Judy didn't even look at her. Ms. Whitmore, if you interrupt one more time, I will have you removed from this courtroom and rule in absentia. Do you understand? Silence. Jennifer sat back down, her hands gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles went white. Frank continued. At approximately 2 p.m., I made the decision to stop serving alcohol to their table. Ms. Whitmore became belligerent. She demanded to speak to the owner, threatened to leave a bad review, told me I was discriminating against women having fun. Her exact words were, "Do you know who I am? I have 47,000 followers and I can destroy this restaurant." The courtroom collectively gasped. Judge Judy's expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed. She threatened you with her social media following? Yes, Your Honor, it's not the first time someone's tried that, but it's always uncomfortable. Eventually her friends calmed her down and they settled the bill. Our security cameras show them leaving at 2:21 p.m. Ms. Whitmore was visibly intoxicated, stumbling, needing support from her friends to walk to the rideshare pickup area. We have all of this on video if you'd like to see it. That won't be necessary, Judge Judy said. I think I have a pretty clear picture. She turned her attention back to Jennifer, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Ms. Whitmore, stand up. Jennifer stood slowly. Her earlier confidence completely evaporated. She looked like she wanted to disappear. You spent 3 hours drinking 4 bottles of wine. You got so drunk and disruptive that the restaurant cut you off and had security escort you out. You got into Mr. Chen's vehicle clearly intoxicated, spilled wine all over his car, refused to take responsibility, and then went on social media to destroy his reputation. And then, you had the audacity to come into my courtroom, lie under oath, and sue him for $5,000. Is that accurate? Jennifer's voice was barely audible. I didn't lie. I just remembered things differently. You remembered things differently, Judge Judy repeated, her voice laden with sarcasm. The video shows you laughing while spilling wine. Your memory says you were traumatized. The video shows smooth, safe driving. Your memory says erratic and dangerous. The video shows you cursing at him. Your memory says he was aggressive with you. Jennifer tried one last desperate move. She pointed her finger directly at Judge Judy, her voice rising with indignation. You know what? I expected better from another woman. You should be supporting me, not tearing me down. This is exactly why women can't get ahead, because even other women. Judge Judy stood up slowly, her 5-foot-tall frame somehow seeming to tower over the entire courtroom. Her voice dropped to that deadly calm tone that every regular viewer knew meant someone was about to get destroyed. Put your finger down before I have my bailiff remove it from your hand. The pause that followed felt like an eternity. Then came the sentence that would end Jennifer Whitmore's influencer career. The only thing you're entitled to in this courtroom is my judgment, and you're not going to like it. Jennifer's finger dropped like dead weight. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. For the first time in possibly her entire adult life, Jennifer Whitmore had absolutely nothing to say. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum through the vents. Judge Judy sat back down, her gavel resting beside her hand like a weapon waiting to be deployed.
Here's what's going to happen.
Ms. Whitmore, I'm ruling in favor of the plaintiff, Marcus Chen, in the full amount of $2,047. That's $847 for the cleaning and detailing of his vehicle, which you destroyed with your wine. That's $1,500 for the wages he lost during the suspension that your false accusations caused, and that's $500 for emotional distress, which frankly is a bargain considering what you put this man through. She picked up Jennifer's counterclaim and held it up like it was contaminated. Your counterclaim for $5,000 is dismissed. Not just dismissed, it's being forwarded to the Bar Association as an example of a frivolous lawsuit filed in bad faith. Your lawyer should have known better. Jennifer's lawyer had already started packing his briefcase. He wanted out of this courtroom yesterday. Judge Judy wasn't finished. But we need to talk about something bigger than money here, Ms. Whitmore. You have a platform. 47,000 people listen to what you say, and you've used that platform as a weapon against people who can't fight back. Service workers who depend on ratings and reviews to feed their families. You've turned your followers into an attack mob. And you've done it repeatedly, systematically. Every time someone dared to hold you accountable for your own actions. Jennifer's eyes were filling with tears. But these weren't the manipulative tears from earlier. These were the tears of someone whose entire world was collapsing in real time. Your Honor, my career, people are watching this. Good, they should watch this. Maybe it'll teach them that accountability isn't optional, just because you have followers. Maybe it'll teach you that being an influencer doesn't make you royalty, it makes you responsible. Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice taking on that grandmother teaching a lesson quality that somehow made everything hit harder. You call yourself a wellness coach. There's nothing well about your behavior. You're sick with entitlement. You think your designer bag and your Instagram account put you above people like Marcus Chen, people who work real jobs and treat others with respect. Let me tell you something about real success, Ms. Whitmore. It's not measured in followers. It's measured in character. And yours is bankrupt. Marcus Chen stood at his table, tears streaming down his face, not bothering to wipe them away. Judge Judy noticed. Mr. Chen, would you like to say anything? Marcus's voice cracked, but the words came out strong. Your Honor, I just want to say that I love what I do. I meet good people every day. People who say thank you, who treat me like a human being, who understand that we're all just trying to make it in this world. But people like her make me question everything. Make me wonder if it's worth it. He looked directly at Jennifer for the first time. I have a daughter. She's 7 years old. I teach her to treat everyone with kindness no matter what job they have, no matter how much money they make. I hope she never becomes someone who thinks she's better than other people just because of what she has. Because what you have can disappear. But who you are, that stays forever. The courtroom erupted in applause. Judge Judy let it continue for a moment before raising her hand for silence. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,147. Ms. Whitmore, you have 30 days to pay. If you don't, we will garnish your income, and yes, that includes whatever money you make from your influencer activities. We're adjourned. The gavel came down with finality. Jennifer Whitmore stood frozen as Marcus shook hands with his lawyer, as people in the gallery approached to congratulate him, as David Martinez patted him on the shoulder with understanding only another victim could provide. She grabbed her expensive purse and walked toward the exit, her designer sunglasses back on, trying desperately to hide behind them. But everyone had already seen the truth. The cameras had captured everything. By the time she reached her car, she'd already lost 8,000 followers. By the end of the day, it would be 15,000. Her brand partnerships would start canceling within 48 hours. The local news would pick up the story with the headline, "Influencer Destroyed in Judge Judy Courtroom." But in that moment, none of that mattered as much as the simple fact that Marcus Chen walked out of that courtroom with his head held high. Justice finally served. And his faith in the system restored. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the truth wins. And when Judge Judy is involved, it wins decisively.
The courtroom erupted in a silence so thick it felt like the air itself had stopped moving. Every eye locked onto the young woman standing behind the defendant's table, her designer heels clicking against the polished floor as she leaned forward, her diamond bracelet catching the harsh courtroom lights. Madison Sterling, daughter of tech billionaire Robert Sterling, had just uttered 7 words that would change her life forever. "My father owns this court, not you." The camera operators froze mid-motion. The bailiff's hand instinctively moved toward his side. Sarah Chen, the plaintiff standing across the aisle in her modest blazer, felt her stomach drop. But it was Judge Judith Scheindlin's reaction that made time itself seem to pause. She removed her glasses with deliberate slowness, placed them on the bench before her, and fixed Madison with a stare that had made seasoned attorneys wet themselves with fear. 10 seconds passed. Then 20. The silence stretched into something unbearable, a predator sizing up prey that had just made a fatal mistake. Madison's smirk began to falter. Her lawyer, Marcus Webb, closed his eyes in defeat, knowing exactly what was about to happen. This wasn't supposed to be how the day went. This was supposed to be simple. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. But let's rewind 12 hours, to the moment this perfect storm began brewing. The case itself seemed straightforward on paper, almost boring by Judge Judy standards. Madison Sterling had borrowed her former friend Sarah Chen's Range Rover 6 months earlier, promising to return it within hours. She returned it 3 weeks later, totaled, with the interior destroyed and a casual text that read, "Oops, my bad lol." Sarah, a nursing student working double shifts to afford her education, found herself without transportation, without the $3,000 insurance deductible, and without any hope of getting justice from someone whose father could buy entire city blocks without checking his account balance. Madison had ignored Sarah's calls. Her lawyers had sent threatening letters. Settlement offers came in at insulting amounts, $200 for a destroyed $60,000 vehicle, with the unspoken message clear: take it or spend years fighting someone with infinite legal resources. Sarah had cried for weeks. She'd missed job interviews. She'd borrowed money from her immigrant parents who'd sacrificed everything to give her opportunities. And then, scrolling through YouTube at 2 in the morning during a breakdown, she'd seen a clip of Judge Judy tearing apart an entitled defendant who thought her designer purse made her special. That's when Sarah Chen decided to fight back. She filled out the application for Judge Judy's show, not because she thought she'd win, but because she needed someone, anyone, to hear her story without dollar signs clouding their judgment. The show's producers had called within a week. They'd seen thousands of cases, but something about Sarah's detailed evidence, her clear timeline, and the text messages from Madison mocking her financial situation had made them sit up straight. This was exactly the kind of case Judge Judy lived for. The kind where money tried to muscle out justice, where privilege assumed it could simply outlast persistence. What Madison Sterling didn't know, what her expensive lawyers failed to research, was that Judge Judith Scheindlin had spent 4 decades building a career specifically designed to destroy people exactly like her. Judge Judy wasn't some local magistrate who could be influenced by donations or political pressure. She'd walked away from the New York family court system specifically so she could speak truth without filter, so she could hold people accountable without worrying about re-election campaigns or bar association politics. She'd made her fortune by being the one judge in America who genuinely, completely, utterly did not give a damn how much money you had. Madison Sterling arrived at the studio that morning in a chauffeur-driven Mercedes, wearing an outfit that cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. She'd brought Marcus Webb, her father's corporate attorney, a man who specialized in making problems disappear through NDAs and nuisance settlement checks. Madison had laughed with her friends the night before, posting on her private Instagram story about how she had to waste her Thursday dealing with some broke girl's delusions. Her plan was simple: show up, let the lawyer do the talking, offer maybe $1,000 to make it go away, and be back in Malibu by dinner. She'd never actually watched Judge Judy's show. If she had, she might have noticed a pattern. She might have seen the CEO who tried to intimidate a housekeeper, only to have Judge Judy award maximum damages and publicly eviscerate his character. She might have watched the trust fund kid who assumed his family name meant something, leaving the courtroom in tears after Judge Judy spent 15 minutes detailing every character flaw visible in his smug expression. She might have understood that walking into that courtroom with an attitude was like throwing gasoline on a fire that already burned white-hot against injustice. But Madison Sterling had never been told no in her entire life. Her father had paid off principals when she cheated. Her family's lawyers had settled when she destroyed property before. Money had been her shield, her sword, her get-out-of-jail-free card since birth. So when she walked into that courtroom, she genuinely believed this would be no different. Sarah Chen, meanwhile, sat in the plaintiff's waiting area with a folder so organized it looked like a legal textbook. Every text message printed and highlighted. Every repair estimate labeled and cross-referenced. Photos of the damage from 16 different angles. She'd prepared like her life depended on it, because in many ways, it did. This $5,000 judgment, the maximum allowed in small claims court, would determine whether she could fix her car, replace her lost wages, and restore some dignity to a situation that had made her feel powerless for half a year. Her hands shook as she waited. Not from fear, but from the sheer weight of finally having a chance to be heard. The bailiff called them in. The cameras started rolling. Judge Judy entered with her characteristic brisk efficiency, no-nonsense posture making it clear she had neither time nor patience for games. She reviewed the case file quickly, her sharp eyes scanning Sarah's evidence with the speed of someone who'd seen 10,000 cases and could spot the truth in seconds. Then she looked up at Madison, taking in the designer labels, the entitled posture, the barely concealed annoyance at having to be there. Judge Judy had seen this exact defendant 100 times before. The clothes changed, the faces changed, but the attitude was always identical. That particular blend of boredom and superiority that came from never facing consequences. And in that moment, before a single word was spoken, Judge Judy made a decision. This one was going to learn today. Ms. Chen, Judge Judy began, her voice carrying that distinct Brooklyn accent that had become famous for cutting through nonsense like a laser through butter. Tell me what happened. Sarah took a breath and began. Her voice was steady despite her nerves, laying out the facts with the precision of someone who'd rehearsed this moment in her head 1,000 times. She explained the friendship, the favor asked, the promise made. She explained the 3-week disappearance, the totaled vehicle, the dismissive text message. She presented her evidence piece by piece, repair estimates, insurance documents, the text messages where Madison admitted fault but refused responsibility. Judge Judy listened without interruption, her face neutral but her mind clearly cataloging every detail. When Sarah finished, there was a moment of silence before Judge Judy turned her attention to the defendant's table. Ms. Sterling, she said, and there was something in her tone that made Madison's lawyer tense immediately. You borrowed this car for a few hours and returned it totaled 3 weeks later. What's your explanation? This was the moment. This was where Madison Sterling should have shown humility, should have acknowledged wrongdoing, should have let her lawyer handle the response with careful legal phrasing. Instead, she rolled her eyes. Visibly. On camera. And she said, with the kind of casual dismissiveness that came from 24 years of never being challenged, it was an accident. Things happen. She's acting like it's a big deal. The temperature in the courtroom dropped 10 degrees. Judge Judy's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture, a predator catching the scent of wounded prey. Things happen, Judge Judy repeated slowly, letting the words hang in the air. You destroyed someone's $60,000 vehicle and your response is things happen? Madison shrugged, already bored with the conversation. I offered to pay her something. She's being greedy. That's when it started. That's when Judge Judy began the systematic dismantling that would soon go viral, that would be watched by 50 million people, that would become a cultural touchstone for everyone who'd ever been bulldozed by someone with more money than sense. But we're not there yet. Because what happened next, what escalated this from a standard judgment to a legendary moment, started with a simple question. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly and asked, "You offered to pay her something. How much?" Madison waved her hand dismissively. "Like $200. For her trouble." The courtroom gasped. Even the camera operators exchanged glances. Sarah's face flushed with renewed anger. And Judge Judy, Judge Judith Scheindlin, the woman who'd been doing this for 40 years, who'd seen every scheme and heard every excuse, felt something rare. She felt genuinely offended on behalf of the plaintiff. $200, Judge Judy said, her voice dangerously quiet. For a car worth $60,000, that you totaled, that left her without transportation for months. $200. Madison, still not reading the room, still not understanding the magnitude of her mistake, shrugged again. She should have had better insurance. And that's when Marcus Webb, the expensive lawyer, finally spoke up. "Your Honor, perhaps we could discuss a settlement that." "I'm not talking to you," Judge Judy cut him off with surgical precision. "I'm talking to your client, who seems to think this is all a joke." Madison's face flushed. She wasn't used to being spoken to this way, wasn't used to someone with authority treating her like she was wrong. "It's not a joke," Madison said, her voice rising slightly. "But I don't see why I should have to pay for her bad luck." "Your bad driving is her bad luck?" Judge Judy's eyebrows raised. "That's your position?" "I didn't mean to crash it," Madison protested, finally showing some emotion. "It was an accident. Accidents happen." Judge Judy picked up a piece of paper from her desk, one of the text messages Sarah had submitted. She read it aloud, her voice dripping with disdain. "This is what you texted your friend 3 days after totaling her car. Quote, 'Stop being so dramatic, it's just a car. My dad will probably buy you a better one if you stop being annoying about it.' End quote." Madison's face went pale. She'd forgotten about that text. "Did you send that?" Judge Judy asked. I was upset. She kept calling me in, answer the question. "Did you send that text message?" "Yes, but," "No buts." "You sent it. And did your father buy her a better car?" Silence. "Ms. Sterling, did your father buy her a better car?" "No," Madison admitted quietly. "No," Judge Judy repeated. "So you lied to her. You dismissed her concerns. You offered her an insultingly low amount. And now you're in my courtroom acting like she's the problem." That's when Madison Sterling made the biggest mistake of her life. That's when 24 years of privilege and zero accountability came crashing together into one perfect storm of stupidity. She looked directly at Judge Judy, her face flushed with embarrassment and anger, and she said the words that would define her for years to come. "But not yet. Because right now, in this moment, we need to understand something crucial." Judge Judy wasn't just angry at Madison's attitude. She was angry because she'd seen this story play out 1,000 times. The wealthy person who destroys something, who hurts someone, who faces no consequences because they can afford to make problems disappear. She'd seen the victims, people like Sarah Chen, who worked 2 jobs and studied nursing and did everything right, only to be crushed by someone who'd never worked for anything in their life. This wasn't just about a car. This was about every case where money tried to buy immunity from basic human decency. And Judge Judy had built her entire career to be the one place where that didn't work. So when Madison Sterling opened her mouth to say those 7 words, when she leaned forward and let her privilege speak louder than her common sense, Judge Judy was already 3 steps ahead. She knew exactly what was coming. She'd seen it before. And she was ready. "Do you know who my father is?" Madison asked, her voice carrying that particular tone of someone playing what they thought was a trump card. Judge Judy's response was immediate, cold, and devastating. "I don't care if your father is the Pope." Madison blinked, stunned. People didn't talk to her like that. Her lawyer grabbed her arm, trying to pull her back, trying to salvage this before it became unsalvageable. But it was too late. Madison had been challenged, and she didn't know how to back down. My father donates millions to this network, Madison said, her voice getting louder. I could have him pull his funding with one phone call. The courtroom went silent again. Marcus Webb actually put his head in his hands. Sarah's eyes went wide. And Judge Judy, slowly, deliberately, leaned back in her chair, removed her glasses again, and fixed Madison Sterling with a look that would haunt her nightmares for years. What, Judge Judy said, each word enunciated with crystal clarity, did you just say to me? Madison, incredibly, doubled down. You heard me. My father owns this court. I own this court. One phone call and you're done. And there it was. The moment that would be replayed 50 million times. The moment that would become a meme, a teaching tool, a cultural reference point. The moment Madison Sterling learned that some things money truly cannot buy. The case file sitting on Judge Judy's bench told a story that should have been open and shut. 6 months earlier, Madison Sterling and Sarah Chen had been friends, or at least what Madison considered friends, people she kept around for convenience. Sarah had helped Madison study for exams, covered for her when she skipped class, and listened to her complaints about problems that weren't really problems. So when Madison asked to borrow Sarah's Range Rover for a quick errand, Sarah had said yes without hesitation. That quick errand turned into a 3-week nightmare. Madison took the vehicle to Vegas with her boyfriend, drove it recklessly through the desert, crashed it into a guardrail at 80 miles per hour, and then abandoned it at a repair shop 2 states away. The damages were catastrophic. The entire front end was destroyed, the airbags deployed, the frame bent beyond simple repair. The insurance company declared it a total loss, leaving Sarah with a $3,000 deductible she couldn't afford and no transportation to get to her 2 jobs that were funding her nursing education. Judge Judy let the silence stretch for exactly 30 seconds after Madison's declaration of ownership. 30 seconds where nobody moved, nobody breathed, nobody dared to break the tension that had transformed the courtroom into a powder keg waiting for a spark. Then, with the calm of a surgeon selecting the right scalpel, Judge Judy spoke. Let me make sure I understand you correctly, Ms. Sterling. You believe that because your father has money, you own my courtroom. Is that your testimony under oath? Madison's lawyer lunged forward. Your Honor, my client is obviously upset and didn't mean, sit down, Mr. Webb. I'm not speaking to you. Judge Judy's hand rose like a stop sign. Ms. Sterling, answer the question. Madison's face had gone from flushed to pale, her brain finally catching up to her mouth, realizing she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. I just meant that my father is influential and, that's not what you said. You said you own this court. You said one phone call and I'm done. Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice dropping to that dangerous quiet that every regular viewer recognized as the calm before annihilation. Let me tell you something about my courtroom, young lady. I left the New York family court system after 25 years specifically so I would never have to care about who your father is, how much money he has, or what networks he donates to. Do you understand what that means? Madison opened her mouth but no sound came out. It means, Judge Judy continued, her voice rising with each word, that you just threatened the one judge in America who has absolutely zero reason to care about your threats. I don't run for election. I don't need funding. I don't answer to network executives who take your father's money. I answer to the truth, the evidence, and my own conscience. She picked up Sarah's evidence folder, holding it up like a prosecutor presenting a murder weapon. Let's talk about what actually happened here, shall we? Because unlike you, I actually read the case file. Judge Judy pulled out the first text message, the one Madison sent 3 hours after borrowing the car. Quote, change of plans, taking this baby to Vegas, you don't mind, right? You didn't wait for an answer, did you, Ms. Sterling? I thought she'd be okay with, you didn't ask. You informed. Judge Judy pulled out another message. Day 5, stop blowing up my phone, I'll bring it back when I bring it back. Day 12, chill out Sarah, it's just a car. Day 18, OMG, you're so annoying, I had a little accident but it's fine. The courtroom audience was leaning forward now, completely absorbed. Sarah stood straighter, feeling validated for the first time in months. A little accident, Judge Judy repeated. You want to tell this court what a little accident means? Madison's voice came out small. I hit a guardrail. At what speed? Silence. Ms. Sterling, the police report says 87 miles per hour in a 55 zone. You were racing your boyfriend, weren't you? We were just having fun. Fun. Judge Judy set down the papers and looked directly into Madison's eyes. Sarah Chen's fun ended the day she met you. Let's talk about what your fun cost her. Judge Judy opened Sarah's damage report like she was unveiling evidence in a murder trial. $3,000 insurance deductible that a nursing student working 2 jobs couldn't afford. Loss of transportation for 8 weeks. Missed job interview at Children's Hospital because she couldn't get there. That job paid $62,000 a year, Ms. Sterling. Your fun cost her a career opportunity. Madison shifted uncomfortably, her designer heels clicking against the floor. I didn't know about the job. You didn't ask. You didn't care. Judge Judy's voice cut like glass. Let me read you another text. This one you sent to a friend, not to Sarah. Quote, that poor girl is freaking out over her basic car like it's a Lamborghini. So dramatic. Daddy will make it go away like always. Did you write that? The color drained from Madison's face. How did you answer the question? Yes, Madison whispered. Yes, what? Yes, I wrote it. Judge Judy slammed her hand on the bench, the crack echoing like a gunshot. Your father isn't here to make this go away, Ms. Sterling. I am. The gavel came down with a finality that made Madison Sterling physically flinch. I find in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, the maximum allowed in this court, plus all court costs. Judge Judy wasn't finished. Furthermore, Ms. Sterling, I'm ordering you to write a personal letter of apology to Ms. Chen, to be submitted to this court within 30 days, explaining exactly what you did wrong and why it was wrong. Not your lawyer's words. Yours. Madison's mouth opened in protest but Judge Judy's raised hand stopped her cold. And if that letter isn't sincere, if it contains 1 ounce of the entitlement you've displayed here today, I will personally ensure this footage is sent to every insurance company in California, every employer you ever apply to, and every university that might consider accepting you for any program. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Madison choked out, tears now streaming down her face. Not tears of remorse, Judge Judy noted, but tears of humiliation, of someone facing consequences for the first time in 24 years. Sarah Chen stood frozen, unable to process that she'd actually won, that someone had actually held Madison accountable, that justice had happened despite the massive power imbalance. Judge Judy turned to her, and for the first time since the case began, her expression softened microscopically. Ms. Chen, I want you to understand something. You did everything right. You documented everything, you stood your ground, and you refused to be bullied by someone with more money than sense. That takes courage. Sarah's eyes welled with tears, the good kind, the kind that came from being truly seen and heard. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. You earned this. Judge Judy looked back at Madison one final time. Ms. Sterling, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've seen hundreds of people like you, people who think money makes them special, who think wealth means they don't have to follow the same rules as everyone else. And do you know what happens to them? Madison shook her head weakly. They end up miserable. Because money can buy you things, but it can't buy you character, it can't buy you integrity, and it sure as hell can't buy you respect. You have a choice to make when you leave here. You can learn from this and become a better person, or you can stay exactly who you are and watch your life fall apart piece by piece as people figure out what you really are. The courtroom sat in absolute silence, the weight of Judge Judy's words hanging in the air like smoke. "We're done here," Judge Judy said, gathering her papers. The gavel came down one final time, and Madison Sterling stumbled toward the exit, her lawyer gripping her elbow to keep her upright, while Sarah Chin stood tall for the first time in 6 months, vindicated, validated, and victorious. The episode aired on a Tuesday afternoon in September, and by Wednesday morning, Madison Sterling's life had imploded. The clip of her saying, "I own this court," hit social media like a nuclear bomb. Within 12 hours, it had 15 million views. Within 48 hours, 50 million. The comments section became a digital pillory where thousands of people who'd been bullied by wealth, dismissed by privilege, or crushed by entitled rich kids found their voice. "This is everyone who ever got away with everything finally getting what they deserved," read the top comment with 200,000 likes. Madison's private Instagram, the one where she'd mocked Sarah as "some broke girl," was hacked and leaked within days. Screenshots spread across Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok. Her sorority sisters from USC distanced themselves immediately, releasing a statement that they didn't condone such behavior. Her father, Robert Sterling, watched the clip in his office and did something Madison had never seen him do. He cried. Not from sadness, but from shame and the crushing realization that his money, his enabling, his constant fixing of her mistakes had created a monster. For the first time in Madison's life, her father's checkbook stayed closed. When she begged him to make it go away, to hire crisis PR firms, to threaten lawsuits, he simply said, "No. You did this. You fix it." Madison tried. She hired a reputation management company with her trust fund money. They lasted 2 weeks before quitting, telling her that, "The internet has decided who you are, and no amount of money changes viral infamy." She recorded an apology video, scripted by professionals, wearing a modest sweater instead of designer labels, her hair pulled back, her face makeup free. It got 17 million views and a 98% dislike ratio. "Fake," read every comment. "She's only sorry she got caught. Those aren't real tears. Judge Judy saw right through you and so do we." Dating became impossible. Every potential match Googled her name and found the clip. Job interviews ended the moment HR searched her background. She applied to volunteer at a children's hospital, thinking it would help her image, and was politely declined because your presence might be disruptive. The letter Judge Judy demanded arrived on day 29, clearly written in Madison's own hand, filled with grammatical errors and genuine emotion. It was 3 pages of rambling acknowledgement that she'd been wrong, that she'd hurt Sarah, that she'd lived her entire life thinking consequences were for other people. Judge Judy read it, noted that it seemed sincere, and filed it away without comment. Sarah Chen's life took the opposite trajectory. The $5,000 judgment paid for her car repairs with enough left over to cover 2 months of expenses. But the real windfall came from strangers on the internet who'd watched her stand up to privilege and decided she deserved support. A GoFundMe appeared, created by someone she'd never met, with a simple message: "Help the girl who stood up to the billionaire's daughter." It raised $87,000 in 2 weeks. Sarah tried to refuse it, feeling uncomfortable with charity, but the donations kept coming with messages that made her cry. "You represent everyone who's been stepped on. Take this and become the nurse you're meant to be. You showed courage. Let us show gratitude." She graduated nursing school debt-free. Children's Hospital, the job she'd missed because of Madison's crash, reached out personally and offered her a position. She accepted. Her first day, a patient's mother recognized her from the viral clip and said, "You're the girl from Judge Judy. You're a hero to working moms everywhere." Sarah blushed and redirected to her patient, but the recognition followed her. Speaking invitations came from women's organizations, legal aid societies, and university ethics departments. She accepted a few, always with the same message: document everything, know your worth, and never let someone's money make you believe you don't deserve justice. Meanwhile, Madison Sterling sat in her father's company mailroom, sorting packages for $12 an hour, the only job her father would give her until she learned what real work felt like. Her co-workers knew exactly who she was. The break room TV played Judge Judy every day at lunch. She ate alone. 6 months after the episode aired, Judge Judy was asked about the case during a legal conference in New York. The moderator played the clip of Madison saying, "I own this court," and the audience of judges, lawyers, and law students erupted in applause. Judge Judy waited for silence, then said something that would be quoted in law school ethics courses for years to come. That young woman didn't own anything, least of all that courtroom. She'd been given everything her entire life except the one thing she actually needed, someone to tell her no. She paused, her expression thoughtful. Her father's money had bought her out of every consequence, every mistake, every moment where she should have learned that actions have repercussions. So when she walked into my courtroom, she genuinely believed that pattern would continue. And I had the privilege of being the first person in her 24 years to prove her wrong. The moderator asked if Judge Judy thought Madison would change. "I don't know," Judge Judy answered honestly. "Some people learn. Some people just get better at hiding who they are. But that's not my concern. My concern was Sarah Chen, a young woman who did everything right and was getting crushed by someone who'd done everything wrong. Justice isn't about reforming the guilty. It's about protecting the innocent." Sarah Chen framed the check from Judge Judy's show, hung it in her apartment next to her nursing degree, and looked at it every morning before her shift. It reminded her that speaking up had been worth it, that courage in the face of power wasn't futile, that the system could work if you fought hard enough. She never heard from Madison Sterling again. Madison's mandated apology letter had been sincere, but Sarah didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. Madison Sterling, for her part, discovered that infamy was a permanent scar in the digital age. 3 years later, her Google results still showed Judge Judy first. 5 years later, job interviewers still asked about it. She eventually moved to Europe, changed her last name, and started over with a ruthless anonymity that money could buy. Whether she actually changed or simply learned to hide better, no one would ever know for certain. But the lesson endured, across millions of screens, shared in countless conversations, taught in ethics classes and business schools. Privilege without accountability destroys everything it touches, while integrity and courage preserve what truly matters. Judge Judy retired years later with that case in every highlight reel, every retrospective, every compilation of her greatest moments. When asked what she wanted people to remember about her career, she said simply, "I hope they remember that justice isn't for sale, dignity isn't determined by bank accounts, and sometimes the most important thing you can do is look someone in the eye and tell them no." In that courtroom, under those fluorescent lights, Madison Sterling learned what money couldn't buy. And Sarah Chen learned what it couldn't take away. Judge Judy showed us that no amount of money can shield you from the consequences of your actions when you face someone who truly believes in justice. What did you think of how she handled Madison? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you loved seeing entitled privilege get destroyed by pure accountability, hit that like button and check out our next video where another person learned that wealth doesn't mean immunity from reality. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe so you never miss these incredible moments when justice isn't just served, it's delivered with a side of life lessons you'll never forget.